Alrighty, this is take 2 of my attempt to do this long form narration thing. I first attempted it pre-caffeinated and I overshared, so let's do this right this time. So, my husband has once again, unfortunately, been correct in that I probably need to actually talk about myself, let people in, be known, all that horrifying stuff. I've been of the opinion for a long time that the work should speak for itself and who I am should have nothing to do with people's take on it. Unfortunately, that's just not been the case. And I got to tell my story. So, and I need to tell it caffeinated apparently. And I need more than 2 dot points on my talking point list because that's all I had the first take. And that didn't go very well, especially because one of the talking points was, I shit you not, it was simply scenarios in which I could paint full-time, mental institution. So the first take really wasn't great. So we're here to do it again. Yes, that audio has been deleted and will never see the light of day. Anyway, so we will start at the beginning. My name is Sarah Phillips. I'm a painter in Australia. I am 29, turning 30 this year. 3rd decade, woot. I'm from Bundaberg, a coastal town in Queensland. And aside from painting, I'm a very big fan of reading and singing. All right, that is enough of the icebreaker rubbish. All right. Oh, Lord. I'm really not good at this sort of stuff, by the way, but I'm seeing that as a good thing, that I'm doing this because I need to get practice. I need to get good at talking about myself and telling my story, especially because I've got 3 shows coming up and I'm going to have to, and in person it's way more awkward, so I need to get better at this. This is great practice for me. Thank you, guys. All right, so the basics. I've been drawing my whole life. In my mother's words, I became obsessive at about the age of 11. I've been painting with watercolors since I was about 14. Acrylics for maybe 6 years and oil paints for maybe 4 years. Not a big fan of oil paints. I think it's just because I've come from watercolors and the roles are so opposite. I'm favoring acrylics these days, and I don't think oils will ever be my bread and butter just because, yeah, the rules are so counterintuitive to what I've learnt for the longest time, and also the chemicals. I don't love the smells. And I know that there's so many unscented options, but anyway. We're getting off topic. This is another thing I'm trying to improve on because my first take was Rambley's goddamn hell, and listening back to it, I'm like, how does my brain work? How do I have a job? Anyway, so we're working on narratives actually following parts, all right? All right. So if I refer back to my handy notes. So I've been thinking a lot about the attitude you need to have as an artist. Like, for me, it's not been a very intentional thing being an artist as much as just something I do, something I have always done and will always continue to do. It's just built into me. But I was thinking a lot about the attitude you need to have because the road is paved with rejection, and you need to have thick skin and you need to be stubborn. And in a way, that's probably one of the things that I'm most proud of as an artist, is that I am stubborn. And, you know, you get so many rejections, so many competitions where you pay money and you get no feedback and then you're rejected. There's so many emails that you never get a response to, so many galleries that stop answering your calls. So it is just one of those things where it's part of the territory that you get rejected. And you need to understand that it's not necessarily a reflection on you. Like, so many opportunities for artists, they're looking for something incredibly specific. So you can't take it personally that you didn't tick that box. But I particularly was thinking the other day about, there's this line in the poem Invictus that I really love. If you're not familiar with the Invictus poem, it goes like this. Out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody, but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how strait the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll, I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. I really keep coming back to that line, my head is bloodied but unbowed, because that is really it, is you've got to have that pride and that passion in your work, that it's worth being seen. And it doesn't matter how many people tell you your work is rubbish. It doesn't matter how many opportunities, how many doors stay closed. The fact that you keep knocking is the success. And like, you know, traditional success would also be nice, but it's that point of pride that you can keep your head up, even before other people believe in your work. The fact that you believe in your work in and of itself it's an incredible well to draw from, and it does really help when you're dealing with all this rejection to take pride in being stubborn. This is actually something that I tell my students, like, because I teach painting sometimes, is you've got to be stubborn, and it's got to be one of those things where you've got to break it before it breaks you, in the sense of you've just got to keep trying, and you've got to enjoy trying. You've got to enjoy throwing yourself into something and see how you can grow from it and seeing how it stretches you. I really see every painting that way. You'll notice that a lot of my paintings do have a lot in common, but every one of them will have something that I've never done before, because that is one of the real joys in painting for me, is, you know, stretching what I understand myself to be capable of and pushing myself into new spaces. It's also one of the reasons I don't really use my references after I've done the sketch. So I think this is something that I differ from a lot of artists on is my process. And it's fascinating to me to hear other artists talk about their processes, because so many artists go, well, I wanted to tell this story, so I sat down and thought about, you know, these symbols would symbolize this, that, and the other, and if I lay out the composition like this, then the narrative will flow this way. And I go, wow, that's amazing. That's intentional. That's incredible. And to myself, I'm thinking, that's a lot of work, because my process is very intuitive. It can be as simple as my mind is wandering. You know, I'm having a good old sing/scream in the shower. I'm going for a long drive. You know, my mind's wandering while I'm reading or whatever, and I will just get these visual images in my mind, and it'll just be little glimpses, little like elements of something, and eventually things will click, and, you know, something will stand out to me as like, that's the important bit, like that's what I want to focus on. This image, this subject it's important, and I'm not even sure why, but it is, and so that's what sets me off. I might do a couple of sketches just to figure out a bit more closely what I want, or I might jump straight into setting up a reference photo and shooting it. I might use several shots from the reference photos to Frankenstein something together, but the common denominator is that I'll do my sketch looking closely at the reference, but then it goes away. Once that sketch is done, I don't, unless I'm really struggling with something, I don't pull the reference up again to look at it. The rest is improvising and remembering, and it's intuition. And that's why I think a lot of people are kind of shocked when they see my reference photo and the piece. They're like, well, I see the subject is the same and, you know, realistic, but the background's completely different. Like, where's the reference photo for the background? I go, that doesn't exist. That's completely from memory, or that's just something I improvised. Yeah, my process is so intuitive, and I wonder if, you know, if you're one of those artists that's really like meticulous and plans out the whole thing, is my process like maddening to you? I'd love to know if it's just infuriating. Because I will, like, you know, just decide to introduce elements or decide to introduce light sources, whatever, halfway through the painting. I'm on the path with it, so to speak. I'm not pulling something behind me in a direction that I'm aware of. It's more like being on a horse that I have no reins, or I don't ride horses, if you can't tell. But yeah, it's very intuitive, and I think for me, what the piece means doesn't really lock in for me until I actually settle on a title, and even then, like, that's just my interpretation at that time. My interpretation of a piece has changed over the years depending on, you know, my perspective on certain things that the painting was about, when, like, to me at least, when I first finished it. And this is another thing I think the art world really gets wrong. I think the art world gets wrong that interpretation is in any kind of way rigid. I think interpretation should be really fluid. You should change your mind about things. And to say that, oh, the artist meant this, intended for this meaning, is, I think it's kind of selfish in a way, because you're robbing people of the opportunity to make up their own mind about what the piece means to them, free from your influence. You're giving them, this is what the art means. And they're very unlikely not to just take that meaning and go, well, this is what it means. So there's that, but also like interpretation just should be more fluid, because it adds to the context, it adds to the richness of a piece. I can't tell you how many times I've thought a particular thing about a piece and someone has told me how they've interpreted it, and it's just blown my mind about the different ways that people see everything. And so I think we're cheating ourselves out of a lot of the joy in the art world by being rigid and by, kind of forcing artists to talk about their work. This is one of the reasons I don't like to talk about my work all that much. Because you're skewing people's views and you're robbing them of the joy, in a sense. Like the piece that I'm working on in this video, you might notice there's a couple of coins in the silver dish. That could mean anything to so many people. It might be a reference to wealth. It might be a reference to poverty. It might be a reference to the coins, on the eyes of the dead in different cultures. Like there's so many ways that could be interpreted. And why would I tell you which one is my way? Just because I'm the one that painted it doesn't make my interpretation correct. There's a beautiful thing about the subjectivity of art, is that there are so many ways to slice these things. But yeah. I think one of the other things, actually, that the art world gets wrong is just that so much is pay to play. I get everyone's got bills to pay and, galleries have expenses to cover. I get that. But I don't know. I find increasingly, like as I get older and I get better jobs and I have more money to invest in the studio, it's great. But it just highlights to me how limited my scope was when I was working less good jobs and less good jobs. I'm being so eloquent in this video, guys. But there are so many opportunities that are pay to play, and so many ventures that are so beneficial for artists that are just prohibitively expensive. And I think we're missing out on a lot of really phenomenal work from working class artists and working class families, because there are so many different narratives to be told. But increasingly, well, maybe not increasingly, maybe this has always been the case, but the art world is full of narratives from very particular spheres, shall we say, very privileged spheres, which I'm not saying those narratives shouldn't be told, but I just think that there needs to be more opportunities for artists to get their work out there without incurring massive expense. This is one of the reasons why one of my mission things, if you will, for the studio, and it's also why it's called Studio Phillips, why I don't just go under my name, is because I really want to set up an apprenticeship program one day. So the idea of calling my business Studio Phillips it's something I can hand over. It's not just my name. So one day, when I'm ready to retire and hand over the practice, I can have an apprentice to hand it over and they can run Studio Phillips. And I got this idea from my dad, because my dad is a boilermaker by trade. So he was, blue collar boilermaker by trade for years. He eventually started his own boilermaking business and he did really well for himself, and I'm very proud of him. But it was great for me to see that, because in boilermaking, you're an apprentice, you're not paid fantastically, but you're paid to learn and to develop your ability, and then at the end of it you have the skills and the understanding to support yourself from your abilities. And I'm like, why the hell isn't this a thing for art? Why can't it be a thing for art? And I think the art world is very much set up on each artist being there. There's communities for sure, but everyone is trying to support themselves and push their own practice as far as they can. And, that makes a lot of sense and fair enough. And a lot of artists do support younger artists as well. I'm not saying that's not the case, but I've never seen an apprenticeship program, like a true, we're going to pay you to learn situation. And so that's what I want to do one day when hypothetically I'm doing so well that I can have an assistant artist come in, learn on the job, have them work with me on commissions, on paintings, develop their skills, learn how to network, learn how to do the business end of things, do their taxes, how to run a studio, and actually set them up to succeed on their own basis. So even if they don't end up taking the helm one day, like they can thrive. And I think there really needs to be that structured approach for artists, because at the moment it's, I don't know, I found it very difficult, but at the same time, I don't know if that's just a unique experience to me. Like there wasn't really anyone in my family that I was close to that was arty. I had no idea how to get started, and being from like a blue collar family, they were super supportive, but they're also like, it's going to be very, very hard to ever make a living from this. And I actually was settled on not making a living from it for a long time. I was actually studying to be a high school teacher because I was so certain that although I would paint all my life, I would never support myself from it. And I loved, when I was studying to be a high school teacher, English and Psych were my majors, and I loved my majors, and the students were great. People go, oh, high school, really? I'm like, yeah, the kids have a sense of humor. That's not the word poop. So the kids were great, the subjects were great, but my last year in uni before I dropped out, happy dropout, my last year, I was just really struggling with the parents. I anticipated negativity from parent to teacher. What I was not prepared for, and I saw this particularly in rough schools, but I saw it everywhere when I was on prac. What I wasn't ready for was the negativity from parent to child, and the child just conveying that. So like, you might have this kid in your class, and he's a bit of a rugrat, and he's a bit distracted, and he distracts other kids a bit. So you're trying to focus on him and trying to get him to enjoy learning, because that's, a phenomenal thing to do. You're setting this kid up for life if you can convince him that learning is fun. And then you've got this kid, all of 12 years old, saying, "Don't waste your time on me, miss." And saying this very sincerely, by the way. "Do not waste your time on me, miss. My mum tells me I'm too dumb to do anything. My mum tells me all I can do is go into the army. My mum tells me I'll work at KFC my whole life because I'm so stupid." And you look at this poor little kid saying this to you with absolute sincerity, and you go, "Where's your fucking mother?" Not literally, but you're thinking this, going, how am I, as a teacher that sees you for 2 hours a week, how am I going to disrupt what you were being told about yourself every day when you go home? And these kids, like, it was just absolutely heartbreaking to realize that there are kids so often being set up to fail just because their parents are hateful towards them. And so I'm realizing how heartbreaking that is. In the same year, I had 1 2-week prac where 4 teachers told me to reconsider my career path because they were getting out because it's so atrocious. And then in the same year, I got scouted by 2 different art organizations, and I made $4,000 at one art show. And it just sort of was this wake up call to, maybe it's not a pipe dream. Maybe it's not an absolute fantasy to make it in art. And as soon as I had that little sliver of hope, as soon as I had that crack in the door, I was hooked. I was like, if there's a chance, if there is actually a chance, I'm going to give it my all. So I dropped out of uni very promptly. I just worked retail for a long time. I'm in just like corporate admin now. It's just like having a day job that keeps the lights on. And, my nights, my weekends, I was always painting, but now I'm really working towards setting up the life that I want as an artist. And this is the cool thing, is I think I would have been happy as a teacher, but disappointed in myself eventually. I think I would have become bitter, because I can't tell you the amount of patience and joy and delightful stubbornness I've gotten just from the notion that it doesn't matter if I never make it full time as an artist. It doesn't matter if I'm still working shit kicker day jobs to keep the lights on until I retire. But the fact that I'm trying, the fact that I do think that I've got a shot, and I'm doing what I can, and I'm working, and I'm investing my time in in something that I believe in, like it again, it's such a well to draw on. But yeah, so I do really want to set up an apprenticeship program one day. I do mentoring at the moment. Like you can do like paid classes if you want like one-on-ones or workshops. But like if you're a young artist and you just like want tips, if you're like, this thing in her painting, I don't know how she did that, but I want to know, email me. It's free. I will reply. I have such a small following, and even if I get a big following, I struggle to think that I would be ignoring people at any point, because I have hated being ignored so much when I've reached out to artists, you know, just asking for tips or just asking, oh, what medium did you use for this, that, and the other. And I understand that that's very hard to do with a big following, and maybe it won't be possible for me one day, but I struggle to see it as something that I won't always prioritize, as actually responding to other artists. So yeah, if you want some tips, if you just have a question, just flick me an email or comment. I'll get back to you. But yeah, so that's sort of what I want to do long term in the studio. I wouldn't be against getting gallery representation or moving about in the fine art world. That would be, I'll allow it. But my long-term goal is simply to support myself and to get other artists on a good path, and like just help them figure it out, because I feel like I've learned so much the hard way, and it just doesn't have to be the hard way. All right, what else have I got on this list of talking points besides? I mean, I probably should mention that one I talked about it very briefly earlier. Scenarios where I could paint full-time, mental institution. Look, it's not on my to-do list, but I'm just saying there's very few places that will give you no jobs and craft supplies. And I'm not suggesting it, but yeah. I should probably talk about artists that influence me, because they're absolutely phenomenal. You should go check them out. I highly recommend these guys. So Miles Johnston, he's a professor, I believe, or some sort of teacher at the Sara Art Academy. That's SARA. Yes, my name is Sarah, and I do see the irony that the fact that if I could attend any art education facility, it would be that one. I would die if I could get the opportunity to learn over there, but it's very expensive, and it's in Sweden, and I'm in Australia, so it's probably not going to happen. But Miles does really phenomenal surrealism, portraiture sort of based work. Definitely go check him out. Other one would be Mia Bergeron. She does a lot of really stunning, like very highly saturated color night scenes that I adore. She also does a lot of work that involves the ocean and candles, so we have some funny overlap there. And yeah, her work is beautiful. It's very different to mine in that it's just the styling. I think my styling is a lot of, I don't want to say anything that might sound like I think her work is less detailed than mine. Her work is detailed, but the detail it's a different kind of detail. Just go check it out. It's fantastic. It's beautiful. Just go check her out. Mia Bergeron. Last one would be Agnes Cecile. She's actually the person that got me into watercolors. I was obsessed with her in high school, and before I came across her on DeviantArt, of all places, of course. If anyone can find my DeviantArt page, please don't tell anyone about it. I've forgotten the password. I can't delete it. Anyway, before I stumbled across her in high school, I thought of watercolors as like this thing retirees painted landscapes with. So I was just very ignorant of like the versatility of the medium. And when I saw her work and realized it was watercolors, I was like, mind blown, and became obsessed. So thank you, Agnes Cecile. I should probably talk about music influences as well, because I don't think that's talked about enough, is the cross influence between visual artists and musicians, because anyway, it's something that is incredibly influential in my work. So it would be Hozier for sure, Florence and the Machine, Aurora, and Gregory Alan Isakov. Those are my 4 favorite musicians. If I ever did cover art for any of them, just put me straight in a coma, like I will die. They're my 4 favorite musicians. At any given time when I'm painting, I'm probably listening to one of them, or I'm listening to my YouTube playlist, which is about 260 clips of songs, tribute videos, cinema edits, that sort of stuff, emotionally evocative stuff. I don't know why that's what I've gravitated towards as my practice has developed, but I like listening to very emotionally charged things when I paint. I don't know why, it's just what I do. One of my favorite movies as well I listen to a lot when I paint, which is About Time. If you're into sappy romance, or Bill Nye, or both, definitely give it a look. It is a fantastic movie. Also, in this take, I'm doing much better at actually filling the time. In my first take, I kept going, holy God, I've got so much time to fill. So it's nice that I'm actually doing quite well. It's funny how when you plan things out, they go better. It's funny how when you do more than one take, things go better. Highly recommend doing more than one take. All right, what else have I got on this damn list? I should probably talk about the ocean and why I paint it, but it is very emotionally charged, and it does have a lot to do with like my family history and my family's history of like mental health and stuff. So I'm still sort of I'm trying to figure out how to tell that story tactfully and without going into a lot of information, but also in a way that people aren't in the comments going, oh, I bet this happened, I bet that happened. And I don't want to dig things up, you know. Short version. Let's do the short version of why the ocean is in almost every single painting that I paint. It's one of the best parts of my life. It's connected to a lot of the people that I am closest to in this world. It's been a tremendous source of beauty and of comfort, and I've sort of come to think of it as just it's so hard to talk about these things, but I need to get good at it. It's a part of the world that makes you want to stay in the world, you know? Let's leave it at that. Let's wrap this thing up, guys. I will get better at that another day. But yeah, if you have any questions, by all means, drop them in the comments. As I said before, I don't have a huge following, and I love actually getting comments and seeing that people actually listen to things is lovely. If you were listening to even this right to the end, I'm shocked, amazed, and grateful. Thank you. Please do subscribe, like, comment, all that jazz. Yeah, let's leave it there.